2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Just doing my thing.
And not hungover, I might add. Welcome to the Voice of C38 podcast. I am Brendan Wyatt.
Miraculously not hungover because I had tequila
Yeah.
for the first time in a long time.
Anybody else?
I'm Matt, by
I'm
the
not
way.
hungover. I'm tired, but not hungover.
Colin, how you feeling?
Pretty good. I actually was pretty much unable to drink at the 4th of July.
Oh,
Some kind of an allergy or religious sect?
Basically felt sick most of the day.
Well, that's the cure for that is more tequila, isn't it?
right? Some
No,
sort
not
of
tequila.
hair of the dog. We can pretend that Brian is hungover, and that's why he's not here.
Yes.
He told his wife it's because of work. He did send us some audio from Marlon. We'll play later on. But jumping right into our starting 5, because it's not really 11. There was only 5 games yesterday. One of them, I don't think really the 4 of us really care to talk much about, but we kind of have to.
Kind of have to.
But let's start off with Atlanta 4, San Jose 2.
Anyone surprised by that? They were at home, right, Atlanta?
Yeah. So
Atlanta was at home, yes.
not surprised?
I'm not surprised.
No. I think Atlanta's kind of really showing a little bit more consistency as the middle of the season starts to get to its place. But on the other side, the other expansion team, Minnesota 0, Columbus 1.
Thank God they're still behind us 1 point in the runnings.
Yeah, because it was kind of scary there for a minute. Almost thought it was going to be us at the bottom.
Again.
And
hello.
we were laughing at Minnesota. That's what we shouldn't have done. That's kind of like the karma, maybe.
Oh, everybody was laughing in Minnesota.
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody is not at the bottom of the barrel, though.
But at least they were laughing in Minnesota. No one even talks about us.
Yeah, they'd rather just skip right on over the fact that we even exist. Dallas 4, DC 2.
Who?
Yep.
Dallas 4, DC 2. July 4th, 2-4 goal games.
That's always kind of fun. I mean, you definitely want to see, I mean, that's the way Americans like their soccer, is goals.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really complain about MLS not having enough goals anymore because there's very few draws anymore, it seems.
And speaking of that, RSL 6, LA 2.
Sometimes it's the wrong teams that score all the goals, yeah. There's no right team in that matchup.
Yeah, that's true. That's almost kind of where you just wish
But-
both teams would have lost.
8 goals. Yeah, that's where the 0-0 draw is satisfying.
Right. But a 6-2 scoreline is not in any way whatsoever. Yeah. So, Colin, you asked a good question. Go ahead and ask it out there for our listeners as well regarding that game.
Yeah, well, my question for this is, LA was at home, and is this more of a sign that LA really can't play at home, or is it RSL got crazy lucky?
Giving my opinion, I think it's a little bit of both. It's funny how you would have a hard time playing at home with a field like that and a stadium like that. NYCFC has an excuse to say they suck at home. LA does not, unless you want to use their roster as that. But even using their roster as a crutch, you can't, because you would think that roster would produce anywhere else. I mean, they are missing a few guys, but at this point in the season, I don't know, for LA, if you're a fan, do you freak out a little?
Well, sure, because next season you're going to be overshadowed by the mighty LAFC. It's your last
Well,
run.
Is that
next
something
season
to
you're
think
gonna jump
about?
on a new
I think
bandwagon.
so. You're splitting the city, and I mean, it's Will Ferrell's team. Come on, he's going to get the majority of fans.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, Drew Carey did a good job with Seattle, but he didn't even need to really...
Yeah, Drew Carey is not even in the same universe as Will Ferrell.
Very true. Very true.
And Drew Carey has no ties to Seattle as far as I know.
Not like he
At
does
all.
with Cleveland, but the team, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the city and the fans of Seattle. He has no direct link. They were just the team available to him.
Right. So, yeah.
I do think LAFC is going to
I totally forgot the Will Ferrell aspect of it. I just, I think about Chivas and when they were there and they weren't a threat So
That was different.
Yeah, but they weren't
That
bringing
was
great
Chivas.
players.
yeah.
That was literally Shiva's stepchild, and
It showed.
yeah, it was treated as such.
Yeah. I mean, thank God we aren't that laughing stock.
The
to
fact
the point
that
where
they weren't even willing to entertain the idea of moving the team, they would rather just shut it down. That tells you how much they didn't care about Chivas.
Yeah. Or just wanting to have it in that location.
Yeah,
But who knows? That's their own
LAFC is
issues.
definitely on the hype train. They're getting a new stadium built. I mean, they're doing it right.
Yeah. And
I've seen
New
people around
stadium,
here already.
Chicharito. Like,
Yeah, they're
bringing
courting
in-
Chicharito.
So they're doing it right.
They're linked to Ibrahimovic, even though that's bullshit. They have it word of mouth in the international community.
they're better off chasing Rooney.
Yep. But didn't he re-sign with Manchester after all that bullshit?
Yeah.
All that bullshit China talk, and he just re-signed anyway?
Then they sent him home off the American tour.
Really?
Yep. So, what does that say? I don't know. If I were a player and got sent home after all of that, I'd be a little concerned. But that kind of wraps up our starting five, because the only other game to talk about is our game, or that Seattle game.
Are we going to talk about the games that happened last week too? The ones we didn't cover?
Oh, Houston?
We could, but that means I have to refresh the page back over to last week. Is there anything that stuck out?
Really tough job there.
Yeah.
The thing about that...
USA 2, Ghana 1.
That was kind of hard to watch that game because, well, there was another game going on.
Which was
Ours,
at the same time?
the Houston game, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
did
that's
not
right.
watch
Because
it.
there was a American Outlaws watch party over...
And I was one of those bad fans. I did not DVR the U.S. game because I just didn't. I don't know. I mean, was it
was an
important?
Did you
international
assume it was a-
friendly. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
It was super important.
But guys that haven't worn U.S. kits got to wear U.S. kits, so there's that reason to watch. I can't go back and record something that I didn't.
Well, the Houston game was awesome. That
Yes.
was a great
Yes.
showing. But that's the thing, is that immediately is followed by the whole, has this team found their groove, and will they carry this momentum? And the fact is, this team has not had momentum at all this year, and one game doesn't give it
We
to
did
them.
have a 4-game win streak that had momentum, and then we let it tank on one away game,
Well,
and then we haven't recovered again.
he used the same lineup too, so it was almost the exact opposite result.
That's right. There were some devastating injuries in that Houston game. I mean, Axel came and went, didn't he? Didn't he? Was that the game he came in and went back out? Or was that before?
No, that was the.
I don't think
That
so.
was the U.S. Open Cup. 'Cause
Open Cup, okay.
I
That's
remember
right.
the feed being so bad, and it was just stuck on Axel
Yeah,
being on
so
the
many
ground.
games in such a short time. I can't keep it
It's
straight
all a
either.
big blur. But yeah, I think that was kind of the. I don't know if he thought that by putting out the same lineup, he would expect somewhat of the same result, because you're playing a very different team. Houston is bad on the road. Houston is a different kind of team, and about how they approach the game and how they possess the ball. Seattle is different, and it's almost like we didn't treat them differently. Like we went out with the same lineup against Houston, hoping that we would maybe have the same results, not playing the same team.
And we always underestimate Dempsey.
Yeah,
No, so
We always
you-
defend him
But-
poorly.
there was
I'm
a
going to try and take a positive look at the Seattle game, because we had multiple shots that were within inches of goal, or that were just insane saves by their keeper. And any of those go in,
Second
and
half.
that's a different game. All of a sudden, it's a 2-2 tie, and Dempsey just makes that hell of a shot. And I think it's a 50-50 shot that Howard either barely gets his fingertips on it and that hits the post instead, or it goes in. Like, he was right there. And I don't think he could make that shot again.
Doesn't change the fact that he made that shot and
Right.
ended up 3-1.
And it's true, it should have been a 2-2 tie, but
There's
wasn't a
it's
2-2
hard to
tie.
tell how that game would have been. Like the reffing sucked in a lot of different ways and at different times, and you know, it was bad on both ways because
Speaking of,
I mean we could have been down a man or maybe two, but we weren't. But yet it seemed like the guy did everything in his power not to reach into his pocket for a Seattle player, and we call them flounders as a joke, but the joke became disgusting. I mean, they flopped and flopped. That was almost to a point where it was a serious tactic. I mean, we don't see Dempsey dive like that when he's wearing red, white, and blue. I hate the guy at times, but he doesn't do that when he's playing for the national team. So it's almost as if...
Well, Howard gave him that 2-arm pull-up at one point when he went down to the box.
Yeah, like, come on.
It's like,
this
stop
is
the bullshit and play a game.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, that's... I don't know. As a professional, I would not want to be flopping that much. It just ruins the game. But
Dempsey's a prick and pricks feed off of that hatred. You can
Yeah,
see it.
that's
when
true.
when he interacts with the crowd. He's loving the hatred he's getting.
yeah, I mean, he pointed to his number and did
That
all
is-
of the
that's a-
antics after scoring.
That is a
and-
prick. Did you know that he got booed at the America Trinidad and Tobago game? He was the only USA player to get booed by the entire stadium when he took the field.
Oh, they're not just saying
I'm surprised
deuce?
they didn't do
No.
that for Bradley, because when I was in line to get into the stadium, and people just started doing the chant of "Bradley sucks, Bradley sucks."
Yeah. But Dempsey got a very public round of booing as he took the field in the intros.
In a way, as it,
And I was explaining to people around me why. Because they were young and they had no idea.
yeah, and if you think Alan Gordon's a thug.
But speaking of the refs, I saw when Mr. Wyatt made his first appearance of the season. I don't
What?
suppose your dad, he
Oh.
hasn't come back. He hasn't been won over, has he?
No, he basically stood there with a smug grin on his face saying, "This is why I don't come." He goes, "If I was at home right now, I could have turned this off. I could have found something else that I would have wanted to watch, that would have entertained me, that would not have left me frustrated, that not would have wanted me to get up and go get a beer." So yeah, it definitely didn't help my dad's case. I mean, he just...
No, it proved his case.
Yeah, it proved
really
his
did.
case. It didn't help my case to try to get him to come back. And if anything, his case is kind of rubbing off on me. And, you know, I look at my family and the situation we're in, and you know, maybe my family doesn't necessarily need to fork out that kind of money. It's not like, you know, they care that much, not as much as I do. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's
It's just really disappointing to see poor reffing, and then especially when you're playing against a team that plays like Seattle did. Like, when you combine both of those, it just makes a terrible, terrible game, because they're flopping and trying to get every call and stall the game from the get-go. It wasn't even after they got the lead. They started out just trying to flop and stall the game and break up the game and make sure that there was no real rhythm to the game. And I really hate that strategy, and refs are supposed to be giving cards more often now for that. Like, FIFA's trying to crack down on that kind of stuff, and you just don't see it in the MLS.
he was so quick to
And-
give us cards. I mean, there were
Yeah.
some of the cards we got were just...
MLS was being kind of catty about it too, because I went home. We were lighting off fireworks, but I saw an update or an alert from MLS that said Gordon subbed in just in time to get a yellow card. I'm like, wow, that's pretty catty writing there. That's not exactly objective
Well,
writing.
and the thing that I think frustrates me about the whole thing with pro and the referees, and this was one of the things that my dad actually said, is that, you know, there, even in America, all the other leagues will have moments and times where if the referees are that bad, they apologize, or they will admit to their mistakes, or they have a review committee where they explain why or why not a call was made. We don't have any of that.
Nope.
We have a disciplinary committee that will hand out fines and cards and suspensions and not explain them. We have refs who do such a horrible job that people can't even watch the game, but no apology or whatsoever about the job poor done, or that, you know, we looked back at this ref's performance and unfortunately, sorry for the teams or the fans or whatever, but, you know, there were some mistakes made. They will never happen. And that's just what I think becomes frustrating as a fan is to see the continuous just lack of willingness to make it better, because that's kind of what it seems like at times. We might get one good ref game out of 5. And another good question that I want to raise is, and I don't know how to ask or get the actual answers from each individual supporters club or whatever, but do other teams feel that the reffing is just as bad? Or is it because we are Colorado? This is Pablo. Pablo's had his reputation. The team has had his reputation. Is that carrying through to the refs and the league?
I don't think that's true. I think because the Rapids have never been on the, or rarely have ever been on the positive side of poor refereeing. We've all, since '96, we've always been the ones that kind of get the calls not really made for us, because we were never the big market team, so we never had the big market players back then. And now it just seems that even when we have those players, we're not getting any calls out of it. And I just, that's the annoying thing. Like, I can deal with poor refereeing, but when it seems like we never get the benefit side, where we're the Seattle side, where all of a sudden the other team's getting 5 cards and we're getting 0, like, you just don't see that happen for us.
That LA Salt Lake game, there was one part where it was a clear offside on LA and a clear dangerous kick on Salt Lake at the same time. Nothing was ever called. But going back to your previous point, I was at a baseball game on Saturday, which was a recreation of an 1879 rules baseball from back when Colorado was still the Wild West. And it was funny because in the rules they were explaining that there was only one umpire, and it was a marshal in this enactment. But there's only one umpire, and he often carried a gun to enforce his decisions, and he was absolute. You could not argue. I think that's a very American
you
thing.
could, but you won't last much longer.
That's right.
You won't be playing. You won't finish the game.
It's almost a very American thing to have this absolute power over even the game that we play. So maybe that's where we do not have the internal affairs and the review boards that other places have. On the other hand, referees in Brazil get murdered for bad calls, so there is a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah. Where can we find that medium?
In VAR, probably.
I think to some level, every team always feels like they have the worst refs because they're, you see one bad call that could have influenced the game, and you're convinced that it's all the worst.
Well, one bad call is different,
bias.
but 5 yellow cards to none, and when you watch 85 minutes of just clear bias refereeing.
Well, confirmation bias is a huge obstacle, psychologically speaking, and that's why it's almost impossible to prove that we do get treated less fairly.
Right.
You'd have to
I'm not saying
the archives.
we were wrong with that, with thinking that we had bad reffing. I'm just, everyone always kind of assumes that they have bad refs.
Well, and that's kind of what I was, one of my, the actual question that kind of sparked this was, does every other team feel the same way? And is it just sucks?
I can only tell you that last year when I went to DC, Orlando, in DC, I was sitting near Orlando fans that were saying exactly what we're saying. The refs are always against us.
Okay.
So some Orlando fans do feel that way last year, but that's all I can speak to. My trip to Minneapolis later on in the year will see if they feel that way too.
All right.
So, and I'll report back.
Keep it an open-ended question.
Poor refereeing and biased refereeing.
Right. This is true. Yeah.
But poor refereeing
across the board.
Poor refereeing in theory, they'll fuck up both teams' calls.
Right.
Exactly. And then there's biased refereeing, which is what I felt this last game kind of had more of. I felt that, I don't feel that we were that much more aggressive of a team that deserved 5 yellows versus 0 yellows. It just didn't seem like we were physically beating the team that hard.
Oh, we weren't. That guy basically just got completely played. Seattle played him like a freaking fool.
However, let me bring this up. What did y'all think about the Nana yellow card? Because I called that shit at the beginning of the year. Remember when they announced Nana? I said his style of play is going to go badly with MLS and referees because from his tape, he was a behind the guy.
See,
He's tackling from
It
behind.
was a
kinda guy.
behind. It was from behind, but the thing is he got the ball before he even got the play.
I know, and he did in his highlight reel
and-
too.
and-
But that's what I said. The referees in
Yeah,
MLS are not gonna play well with.
and they're going to sit there and try and state that it's no matter what, it's from behind. It's a given card, even if you got the ball. And
Yeah, and that's his.
That's
That is
technically
that is Boateng's style, and it always has been since we've heard his name. And I called that shit, and I got to dig it up.
Well,
But I was actually right about something.
But
So
that's
far.
Jermaine Jones was very
sound a
similar.
little bit like Brendan right now.
No, I don't slide from behind. I'll hit you on the side though.
I meant trying to find the time you were right.
Proving that I was
Oh.
right once. That's Brendan, I guess.
Oh
That's
yeah,
Brendan
yeah, yeah. Why do you think I started this? Now I have an archive.
On the record.
Yep.
I was right on the record.
But no, it was frustrating because some calls were legit, but I think that if
But I
as
think
a,
we're gonna see a lot more of that with Nana, and it's gonna result in him getting subbed out a
well,
lot.
I
like
don't
he
know.
was.
I don't.
I mean,
that really kind of again depends on Pablo.
But that's his
and
position.
his awareness.
Defensive
But
midfielders in general get yellow
Yeah,
cards. Pablo got lots of yellow cards. Beckerman
Pablo got
gets
the
lots of
most yellow cards.
well,
Like,
and as
those
long
are
as
Pablo knows from yellow cards.
and the one thing we also got to look at is where did he do it on the field? It didn't
was right in
cost
the
us.
middle. Yeah,
well,
it was
it
right.
didn't really cost us anything. So if you do certain things in certain areas, and you can kind of chalk them down as a tactical foul, you can kind of put that on a different, stack of forgivable occurrences. But obviously, once that stack starts getting up there, then you start to kind of label him as an aggressive player or a dirty player or a player who, like Hendry Thomas, like every time the guy touched the pitch, I almost felt like he was going to get a card. And I knew that from the type of player he was over at Wigan. So it was kind of
But that's
carrying
the thing
that on.
That's the frustrating thing about Boateng is he's not a dirty player.
No,
he's a tactical player.
is.
But what he does, MLS refs have always punished harshly.
Yeah, pro should spend a summer over in England or a winter.
Europe in general.
A winter. Yeah.
Speaking of God, everybody in EPL's on their dream vacations right now. That's got to suck for MLS players seeing that all the time. Everybody's in their private island.
Living it up like Gashi did.
Whereas, they have to go get married in the Bahamas just because it's fucking January.
So outside of the reffing, what do you think we could change to make that Seattle game a win or even a draw out of that game? I think our offense did their job. I feel that our defense was where it lacked. We did not put somebody that could actually mark Dempsey on our back line.
Yeah, Axel was not there.
Axel
Or Courtney.
wasn't there.
Either
Courtney
one of
wasn't
them.
there.
Either
Miller
one.
had an unfortunate slip.
Miller is a better outside back. I love Miller as an outside back. What he can do outside and along the lines is what he is good at. Like that's naturally what he's good at. I don't think he has the presence and the physicality like Axel has as a center back to just stop guys in their tracks. And that's what Axel offers. And even Jared Watts. And I think at times we criticized Watts as he was transitioning into that kind of center back, but we're clearly missing the both of them. And I think that Courtney Ford's got a lot of talent and he's really good, but he's also very raw and he makes some decisions at times that worry me. He goes in with his elbows maybe a little too much. Refs notice that if you're consistently kind of going in for headers and leaning with your forearm.
And he's kind of aggressive. Like
exactly.
For central back, you want a back that's going to kind of make this,
So,
like Drew Moore used to do. He stepped back instead of forward into the ball every time.
right.
Like he tried to position himself versus an outside back. You want him to be a little bit more aggressive and try and stop the play. But you want your central backs to kind of stay where they're at and cut off the angles.
Right. So you don't want eyes on Courtney Ford right away, or the refs always looking at him like, am I going to give you a card now? Am I going to give you a card now?
Do you think they noticed that more with a guy the size of Ford as opposed to a guy the size of Cerna, who's also fairly aggressive?
Yeah.
So Cerna can get away with more?
I would think so. Yeah. I think that
Good tactic. That's great.
size
to know.
can kind of show your difference. I mean, you think that Axel's the first one that everyone's going to notice on the pitch. You know, his physicality and just standing there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've sat there and watched guys go down just by running into him. I mean, dude is standing in his ground, but somehow gets a call.
Yeah, and if you have any doubts, go to our Facebook page. Our cover photo is still us standing next to you.
Yeah.
Next to Axel.
And Matt's the tallest one of our crew, and Axel's still almost a head taller, it seems like.
Brian's very close to my height.
Yeah, that's true. Both of you guys are pretty tall compared to Austin and I.
But yeah.
That starting lineup just had me worried the instant I saw it.
But did it have you worried when we were going against Houston?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
No,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Colin, let's finish your point then, and then we'll go to Austin. So if it didn't against Houston, then what changes would you have made to the lineup against Seattle and why?
Well, personally, I didn't want to see Castillo and DeFont in there. I would have at least switched Miller and Williams in their positions, put Eric on the left. I probably would have slotted Hairston in at right back. I know he was one of the few people who I think actually played a real game on the fourth, but
he's going to play a real game
there.
No matter what position he's in. I think Marley's one of those players that's going to give you the same effort every game. No matter what. No matter how many games they've lost.
No matter what league you send him to.
No matter what. Yeah. I think Marley's that type of guy that he loves what he does and he goes out there and is going to play that game.
You can almost tell just by watching his rise the last 3 years to the first team, from Charlotte to first team.
Yeah.
That he's got Pablo's respect.
And the whole team's respect.
Pablo's is harder to get. Yep. He's probably got Howard's respect. I mean, he must. But I like Castillo in there. I don't think he had a good game either, but I do like seeing Castillo. I have no problems with that guy.
The thing is I don't think that Pablo will ever play Williams at center back.
But TNT does?
Yeah.
And he did pretty well there?
He did very well there. He prefers to play there. That when we first got him, that was the question that Brian asked him, is where do you prefer to be? And he said center back.
Why do you suppose Pablo doesn't agree that's a good choice?
There's got to be something
Pablo.
There. Yeah.
I know Pablo's going to Pablo. What's the motivation there? I don't know.
I think that your difference is that Williams, like DeFont or Miller's proven himself as an outside back, and I think for Pablo, his mindset always seems to be, if you prove yourself as an outside back, you can move yourself kind of in a central role, or if you prove yourself as a defensive mid, you can move in that central role. And I don't think Williams has, like, outside of his national team duty, hasn't really shown that. So that might be part of the reason. I'm not saying he's right, but that could be part of the reasons that he's seen Miller kind of prove himself for the last 2 seasons, consistently being a starter.
Or let me take it one more. And
sorry, go ahead.
You can, as a coach, you sit there and even as fans, we know this when it comes to Williams, he makes decisions sometimes that are very questionable. And maybe if you're on the outside, you can make some of those questionable decisions and it won't completely cost you. Whereas if you make those questionable decisions as a center back and you don't execute right, you cost the team severely. So it could be one of those things where Pablo just doesn't trust him as a center back, which leads to, proving yourself on the outside.
Or maybe it's that kind of gashy problem where it's like, I just want to play, put me anywhere. Whereas you need to stand up and say, I prefer this spot. Let me try this spot.
Right.
Because Gashi was moved all over the front last year, and he shined some places and less so in others. But he always said in the interviews, I just want to play anywhere. I'll play anywhere. I just want to play. Well, obviously you got your preferences. Maybe we need to know about them. Maybe Williams isn't asking to play center back.
I think you're right. I think he probably doesn't
maybe
feel comfortable enough voicing himself as, hey.
Maybe because he already not necessarily first team.
Maybe he knows his place and feels that I got to just play where I'm playing.
Maybe he'll be gone in a week. Who knows?
Could be.
Who knows what's going to happen next podcast.
That's true. The window will be open.
The 10th.
Yep.
Which is what?
Next week, obviously. Tuesday.
Tuesday next week?
Right?
Monday.
No.
Monday's the
Monday.
10th.
Monday. It's always that Monday.
Math. Today's what, Wednesday?
Well, since we were talking about Marlon, we could hear from him.
Sure.
Sure.
All right.
With Seattle kind of pushing a lot of numbers up to begin with, how did you guys combat and defend that early?
I thought most of the chances came off the counterattacks from us.
Yeah.
Maybe losing the ball or higher up, or maybe have a chance to no goal, and them quick restarts, getting the ball back in, and I don't think we did a good enough job in the middle of the field, just breaking up plays, maybe taking fouls when needed, just winning balls in the middle of the field, and credit to those guys, they scored some good goals off of those breaks.
What's it when you guys are just really trying to battle late like that? What are you looking for? Just anything, or?
Yeah, credit to the group. We didn't give up at all.
No.
Even though it was 2-0, we were able to grab one back in the second half, and even after that, we created maybe 3 or 4 more great chances.
Gordo was like that.
Yeah, one off the post. Keeper made a couple big saves. And we put ourselves in a position to try to get another goal late, but in doing so, they were able to get another goal, off a stupid, I think it was a goal kick or a punt or something, just a flick, and Dempsey does what he does best and scored a goal out. So
Thanks, man. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Marlon.
Oh, well.
See, Brian has some great questions. We should be happy he's on the cast and exclusively with us.
Yeah, thank you, B.
I only compliment him when he's not here, so I can find out if he's actually listening.
But
But that second question was a great question.
He won't be listening.
It's not one of
Let's
these.
be honest.
It's not a fanboy question. He's like, are you just hoping for some shit or what? Like that. It's a damn good question. A real good question. A real question.
And I think that you could kind of tell just even in his voice, like that was defeating. Nice, Kenna. You let the dog in and she sits there and ruins it. Lazy dog has to go and make her presence known. Anyway, bummer, man. That's not how you want to spend your fourth.
No.
And yeah, the midfield was very bad. And he did a good job of not throwing anyone under the bus, and the performance was just kind of frustrating, I think. I think even as players, when your opponent is basically taking the game away from you, ball-wise, possession-wise, referee-wise, it makes it really frustrating. That's not the kind of soccer anybody wants to play, yet it does get played. It's just unfortunate.
Well, and this is now the second 4th of July game that we've put up a poor performance. And it's our biggest game of the year ticket-wise. So we need to focus on that game more. And whatever it is, we've got to start winning on that game. You have such an opportunity with a bunch of fans that you're not converting because they've come out once a year for this game.
Like
and
Mr. Wyatt.
Now you tied when Howard's first start, and now you lost 3-1. Like, it's just really, really bad for us when that happens. And it's just another missed opportunity. We talked about it last year, and we tied the game, and it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that last week, too. Which game do you try to win of the two? You got to win. From a marketing standpoint, that was the one.
Well, Pablo clearly feels differently. And I think there's a history now that he doesn't see the fourth as important as we do.
Because he's Argentinian.
I kind of felt that way about the lineup and the roster last year. I understand with the Tim Howard thing and everything going on, but with the result coming out 0-0, I felt kind of the same way that Austin was just talking about. Like, we needed to do better than that. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the Houston game and the Seattle game, and you had the exact same lineup 3 days apart, did you really honestly think that same lineup was going to produce that same kind of result, especially a few days later? And why weren't certain guys who really are rested, why didn't they get the go? Yeah, I get that we have 18 days rest now, and maybe, with Axel's situation, you tried to bring him back twice and he got re-hurt. So, yeah, maybe you do want to take it a little bit slower, but what's up with Watts then? And Courtney Ford. I mean,
Burling.
I talked to Burling too. Burling said,
was it?
Ankle.
Ankle.
He said he thinks he's about 3 weeks out. He's happy. He's
3
starting
game weeks or 3 chronological weeks?
3
'Cause that's only 2
chronological
games.
weeks. So I would think
1
that
game maybe.
I would think beginning of August for him. I would think the way he was kind of talking, he's making it sound like end of the month for him.
Okay, that's
Um,
good.
I guess
That's good to
my
hear.
biggest annoyance with the decision is that he seems to continually lately choose Devontae over Ford, and that's not the decision I would be making. I think Ford still makes rookie mistakes, but I think Devontae makes many more rookie mistakes than Ford does.
Is it Defont or Defonte?
Defont, I think.
Defont. Is it going to be?
believe it's
gonna be.
Defont.
It's going to be
Yeah.
a. Was it Clutie situation
Right,
all
right,
over
right.
again?
Clutie.
It's the misleading E.
Yeah.
One of the questions that was brought up is like, do you think that Pablo's trying to be nice with all that's going on with Courtney and his mom and stuff like that? Is he trying to say, maybe let's try to
Courtney scored a goal since all that went down.
I
I
know.
mean, why aren't you capitalizing on that?
see? And
that
I think
emotion.
that's what I was trying to say. Is I feel like right now, I feel like he plays best with all of this controversy and all this stuff going on. And
this
is
is not
Pablo
it.
trying
How
to
do
be
you
like,
get away from that? You
is your
play.
mind there or not?
You play. How do you get away from those kind of issues that he's having to deal with? Soccer is obviously a passion for him. Like letting him play, letting him maybe get on the field and let that okay, so if he starts getting a bunch of cards, pull him off and be like, okay, well your emotions are obviously being affected and causing you to do a lot of stupid things, but he doesn't seem to be doing that.
Well, he's
So
done
let
it a
him play.
couple times, and I think that's why Pablo's holding him back. Like I've seen certain things that I think that Pablo does when it comes to getting cards and getting suspended. He almost never brings somebody back right away after getting suspended, whether it's red card, 2 yellow cards, or accumulation. I asked Michael Azera. So there are certain things that I think Pablo does that, is somewhat disciplinary. And then there are certain things that I think he does that maybe he holds a player back from playing due to how comfortable he feels on how mentally sound or ready they are. So I wonder if maybe part of that kind of plays a part with maybe why Courtney Ford isn't getting the minutes we feel like he should be getting.
And to say that soccer's a passion for Courtney Ford is a big understatement. That's the thing that links him and his mom like nobody else.
Right.
That's where all of his passion is coming from, and that he wants her to see him succeed while she's still here.
And do you think anybody's frustrated in the marketing department as they continuously try to, help Courtney Ford and his mother? And
I think
yet
they're frustrated.
He's not getting any sort of playing time.
I think the players are frustrated. They're trying to raise money for him, and they can't get it anywhere past Facebook and Twitter. That's all the recognition they're getting for their efforts.
Like, did you guys know that they're doing the jersey auction right now?
Do you know it ends today?
Yeah.
That today's the last day of it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I had to find out through
Recording
Burgundy
that day of
Wave.
release, people.
Yeah. I found out from Burgundy
Should say
Wave.
Well, and Burgundy Wave has done a good job of kind of really being the headhunter as far as the media goes with all of this. They're doing more of a better job than the Rapids to an extent as far as promoting it. And
The Burgundy Wave have some amazing assets.
they've
some amazingly
both
driven
Abby and Mark
people.
have really come in and
Oh, yeah.
just stepped their game up a bit.
They have
Yeah,
tirelessly
Step your game up.
sought information.
So
And
kudos
I
to them
get
for
I get
that.
most of mine from them.
Yes.
They're fantastic.
Well, and they started the bids at, from what I saw, at $250 for each jersey.
I think it
Newborn
was.
jersey.
I'm not sure if it
Yes,
was an auction or if it was
250 each.
250 flat.
$250.
Yeah, it's not
I've
really an
got
auction.
the auction pulled up right now, by the way.
I
Huh.
saw Howard was like 810 last I saw him.
Oh, it is
Howard
an auction.
is at
Okay.
820 right now
Okay.
and is by a pretty significant margin the highest bid one.
Doyle was like 650.
I was going to say, who's next? Doyle, Gashi?
I don't
Doyle's
think
at
Gash-
650.
What about Ford?
Gashi's 500.
What's a Ford jersey going for?
Ford is surprisingly high at 610.
Nice.
Okay. Well, that
I'm
comes with a
happy
story
to see
attached
that.
to it.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
only a game worn jersey; it's got a story.
Yeah, but
That's something you
still.
frame and put over your mantle.
Yeah. There are 4 jerseys which do not have a bid right now.
I know Castillo's won last time I checked, right? Because I
Like-
do. Again, I like Castillo.
Castillo's actually, I don't think
Is
he's
he?
on the list, actually. I'm not
No.
seeing it right away.
He's just gotten back into town. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's listed here.
Okay.
Anyways, the 4 that do not have a bid right now, Burner, which I'm not really surprised by.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Perez. Also not really surprising. Williams
Burner
and
can't
Powers.
even have a game worn jersey.
That's pretty bad. Powers. No one's bidding on Powers.
Poor Powers. But Burner can't have a game worn jersey, so how can they
He's
even?
got one. Did
He's
he,
surprisingly still
once?
got something up
the
the
U.S.
bid.
Open Cup.
Burner.
Didn't he play in the last one?
No.
Or was that McMath?
That was McMath.
That's
All right.
McMath.
That was McMath.
I thought I saw him on the
A Burner
starting
jersey
lineup,
would
but-
be a
Charlotte.
couple years old.
Yeah. But that's kind of funny, though. Not funny,
It's
but
kind of disappointing
Powers, huh?
for Powers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's how much his value has gone down in the eyes of the supporter and fan. Damn. He was Rookie of the Year.
Looks like Austin wins. Austin won the long game.
suck it, Brian. Suck it.
I'm
Hey,
not
you should
really-
mention Brian and let him know that he could bid $250 and get a Powers worn jersey.
I don't know if he'd do it.
He's got to clear it with the wife first.
Yeah.
That's
that
a
would-
lot of money.
Yeah, I don't even know if he'd clear it with the wife.
Currently, he's on business. She doesn't know.
Air quotes business. Yeah.
How we doing on time?
We're only at 41 minutes. We got plenty of time to talk.
All
if
right.
there's anything else,
Yeah.
do you have any questions? Anyone?
Well, I've got
Have any
something
thoughts?
for you guys.
Yeah, shoot.
Man of the match on both games. What did you think?
Who won? The Houston? That was Badgie.
I mean,
scored a brace,
your
right?
vote, not
Oh,
necessarily who was.
Badgie scored a brace. He's got man of the match for me.
Rapids.
No, Marley did.
Marley scored a brace. He's got man of the match for me. That's what I said.
I'm gonna give it to. It's hard not to give it to Marley for 2 goals, and then
And-
both Dom and
Yeah.
Doyle had a hand
That's
in
right.
every
Badgie,
goal.
That's right. Badgie assisted.
Since Doyle isn't getting a whole lot of love at times, I'm gonna give it to Doyler for the
Well,
first game.
That's what Brian gave. That's who Brian gave Manley the match to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd give it to
that didn't
Doyle
count.
too, only because like he does so much work on the field that people don't realize, and now you got to see the fruits of that with him being involved in every single goal. That's I feel that you've got to take that opportunity for him because Harrison's probably going to have a couple of games that are multi-goal games.
yeah.
Well, Doyle's supposed to be that guy
Yeah.
too.
I mean, that's kind of what you want out of
I
a
would
false nine.
disagree. Doyle's not supposed to be a multi-goal game person. He's supposed to be a holding forward.
I
Like
don't-
he can score multiple goals, but that's not really technically what a role of a holding forward is.
I see him more as a creator. I don't necessarily see him as a holding forward. I mean, yeah, he does hold the ball up very well, but he does a lot of off the ball work that helps create things, and his passing is getting better and better as we're starting to see. And the dude is racking up more assists than goals at this point. It seems like so. As long as you're producing one or the other, it's kind of needed. My man of the match for yesterday, I want to give it to Nana because I think that he's starting to get his game legs under him, and it's only a matter of time before he starts to really kind of fit in this league and with this team. And I think that the performances from him are only going to get better as he gets more fit and more used to game speed. So I'll take that.
I'd love to know if Brian gets a chance because we ask everybody who comes from international what they think of MLS. I'd love to know what Nana thinks of MLS so far.
Yeah, we'll have to try to get to ask him.
It's funny. It was Lucho or something, I think, that
it's-
said it was
we actually got a
a lot
question from
faster
chat.
paced than he was expecting and physical.
My man of the match for Houston was probably Hairston, closely followed by Doyle. Man of the match for Seattle, Cerna.
Yeah.
I think he was actually playing a full 90 minutes along with Hairston, and I think those two actually seemed like they were fighting for that match.
Who did win last night, man of the match? Oh, we don't know.
Baji, I think.
Okay. Well, I mean, when the last year they gave Marlin like 3 in a row or something. I mean, it could have happened.
Yeah.
Could have happened again.
I know he was player of the match or player of the month for July.
Oh yeah, and Mo Saeed was just Player of the Month for June.
which is well
Just now,
deserved.
which
But
he had a good month.
absolutely well
He had a great
deserved.
month. Lots of praise for that guy.
Yeah. And he had an okay game yesterday too. It's just, yeah, certain chances and opportunities went missed, and momentum was, there was never an opportunity for momentum to even pick up from the kickoff on. It just was nothing but choppy, frustrating soccer, and unfortunately the Rapids were never able to kind of rebound.
Hey, the thing that did the most work on the field was obviously the yellow card.
It was up, it was down, it was left, it was right.
Yeah. That thing saw more air than it did pocket.
It was created contrails. It was being waved around so
Oh,
much.
man. It was its own firework.
Oh, they got to design a firework that just big yellow card in the sky.
So we got a question from chat. Since it seems like Pablo is finally coming around to playing younger players, how are they going to build confidence if they get benched for one mistake? Going for our man McLeave.
True, but isn't he forced to play a lot of youth?
Well, in a little bit, kind of when you consider the situation he's in, like you mentioned, 25 guys on the roster, 5 of them are kind of hurt-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a young roster, too. I mean, when you kind of think about who you have as veterans, you got...
Since the Minnesota trade, it got a lot younger.
I was going to say, we've been moving to a younger lineup.
Well, Portig told us that last year. Their target age is 27, 28, and that's where Gashi fell. Believe it or not, he's that young.
Mm-hmm.
He looks older, but yeah, I mean they definitely got some of those 30-somethings out of there.
Which, we were just talking about kind of like what Marley and Cerna Little Dill bring to the table and the pitch as far as their approach to the game and just work ethic. And
their
that's what
long-term
you get
investment
with
strategy.
Yeah, and that's what you get with these young guys is they want it and they see it differently. So I think that what the Rapids need to do is take the rest of this season and figure out the right combination of youngsters and veterans, and then we'll have a truly competitive team. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys, as we go on an 18-day hiatus for games? Doesn't mean we will stop.
Are we just going to read the Philosopher's Stone next week because we have nothing to talk about?
No, we'll have transfers to talk about, early transfers, but not Rapids transfers probably, but we'll have some
hopefully,
others.
If not, we can always start our own little rumor mill.
But I do have something.
How long until Austin says something about Chicharito?
He already did.
He already did, and it's LAFC.
Chicharito's going to come to us, don't we know?
We know that.
I'd rather have Vila.
Anywho, as we all knew, yesterday was kind of the tipping point as far as home versus away games. We now have 16 games left and 6 of them at home for the next 3 months.
I don't like that.
Stupid.
Given our away record, 0-7-0, given our home record of not, I mean, even if we win every home game, that gets us 37 points to finish the season, which puts us where San Jose and Columbus were last year, which was 17th and 18th place, respectively. Is it time to still show up at the games but call the season dead? Do we as fans have to say this is probably not going to playoffs? Is today the day?
I'll say this. Yeah, playoffs might be effectively out of reach right now, but I don't want us to just say, oh, well, playoffs are done, give up on the season, and just...
No, we're still going to games. I pointed that out. We're still having fun. We're still going to games, but do we kind of expect a more realistic expectations for this year? Now that we've reached this point,
realistic expectations, but I think that we need to change our mindset for the second half to go. We need to hit playoffs and just say we want to play as a competitive team, which is especially on the road, which is something that we haven't really seen so far.
Well, maybe we should
I want us to see fight for a playoffs position. I don't think we're going to make it, but I want us to at least be in the fight for it, and we definitely need to obviously get points on the road. I think this break it'll really depend on how we come out of this break, because 18 days off is a long time. So, and we've usually come out of breaks pretty poorly. So if we can come out with some energy and get a couple road points early, maybe you say they're still fighting for it and you're still middle of the pack. And that's where I think the fan base needs to set their expectation. If we continue to be fighting for last place with Minnesota,
Well, what if we drink the Pablo Kool-Aid and just say next year will be better right now? Kind of a Stockholm syndrome, because what are the odds that we're going to get an international that's going to change our team the way Schweinsteiger changed Chicago?
Well, the odds of that happening are pretty minimal, and we're 5 points. As of right now, we're 5 points off the final playoff spot with Seattle. Obviously, if we had gotten the 3 points from them, that'd be a different story, and we may not even be having this conversation.
I'm just extrapolating our current form.
But I don't know.
It's not likely we're going to change that much.
The odds are continuously stacking up against us. But I don't know if it's completely time to throw in that towel yet. I would wait and see until the end of the transfer window. Because if we lose...
But even if we get transfers, even if we get great ones, what is our record of having them come in and set fire to the field? Like
0-0 in every time. Yeah. I mean, we seem to make it so guys seem to need a month or more extra to accolade to our altitude or whatever excuse they want to give us.
These are guys who are currently on a private island somewhere, enjoying their vacation, and going to be ripped out of that and thrown into a...
Unless you were playing in the CONCACAF Cup. But, I mean, it just... You're looking at this, and we got 2 games left in July, and even if we brought in somebody tomorrow, what are the odds of them playing that first game in 18 days? Very minimal. And what impact would that make? So the team has to, no matter what acquisition we get, 1, 2, or none, they have to win the next 2 road games. If we don't finish July with another 6 points, then playoffs are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we might as well just try to be competitive.
I haven't done the math, but we can mathematically.
And that it's 1.35 is what we have to continue to be point-wise to make the playoff break, or was average the playoff break.
Which means we can't drop it.
That would put us top 4 teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
Top 5, I think.
But at current form, even a wild card playoff run just delays the inevitable as well. But one good thing, I mean, we all still like Gashi, and we all still like Howard, and we all still like Doyle. So the fact that Pablo could sell and Porrick could sell this team to them after 2015 means that we can still get some really good talent now.
Like Chicharito?
Like Chicharito, but not Chicharito. But like Chicharito.
It wouldn't hurt to have a Mexican international.
It would be great. Yeah.
Maybe another U.S.
I just
international.
think Chicharito's already apartment hunting in L.A.
Probably. It's closer to home anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, everything I've read has said that he's a foregone conclusion.
Hey, look who the Nuggets signed. They paid like $90 million for a player. Give us some of that.
Yeah.
Right? They just dropped $90 million.
We should just auction off the Nuggets jerseys to pay for our new incoming teams.
That was an interesting doorbell knock.
Yeah, it threw me off my train of thought.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It wasn't my doorbell or my dog. All right. As we're derailing, any final thoughts, guys, as we look to wrap this up? Crickets?
Not from me.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you or listen to... Holy monkey.
Hey. Follow us everywhere.
Twitter, Facebook, and voice.c38.sg.com.
Yes. New websites.
Do yourself a favor and bookmark it. It took me forever to remember that.
And Austin, when do we stream?
Next Tuesday.
We stream on Tuesday at 4:30, assuming I can get my mobile set up next week.
All right. Maybe we'll see you guys live next week. If not, check us out on iTunes or where you get your podcasts.